The Zarketh Collective had moved across the Orion arm of the galaxy like a storm that would not stop. For 300 years, no one could stand against them. Their biomechanical ships could eat asteroids and small moons to make more of themselves. They had beaten the defense systems of 17 different thinking species. Commander Patricia Winters stood on the deck of the USS Defiant and looked out at the stars. The Defiant was Earth's newest and best warship. It showed what humans could do when they tried their hardest. A mix of strong weapons and the special fold drive that let ships travel faster than light by going through space tears instead of normal space. Earth had sent the Defiant to the edge of human space after bad news came from the colony world of New Horizon. No one had heard from New Horizon for 3 days. Everyone at United Earth Command feared that the Zarketh, who they thought were far away in the galaxy, had now turned their eyes to human worlds. "Commander, we see strange readings from the New Horizon system," Lieutenant Gregory Martinez said from his station. His fingers moved fast across the light screen, showing sensor data that made Patricia feel cold inside. "Make it bigger," she ordered. The main screen changed to show what was left of New Horizon's space defense platforms, now just broken parts floating in space. And beyond them, she could see many ships unlike any that humans had ever seen before. "Tell everyone to get ready," Patricia said, her voice calm even though she felt afraid deep down. "We have just met the Zarketh for the first time." The ship moved closer to New Horizon. Patricia could now see the Zarketh ships better. They looked partly alive and partly machine. Some were small, about the size of old Earth fighter jets. Others were huge, bigger than the largest ships humans had ever built. They moved together like a school of fish, turning and changing direction as one. "How many people live on New Horizon?" Patricia asked. "About 4 million, answered Officer Nancy Miller, who handled communications. "It's our third largest colony." Patricia nodded, her face showing no emotion even as she thought about all those lives. "Any signs that they got away?" "Some emergency beacons are active," Nancy said. "Looks like maybe 10% of the people might have made it to escape pods or ships." "The rest." She didn't finish her sentence. "The rest are depending on us," Patricia said firmly. "What do we know about these aliens?" Chief Science Officer Alan Blackwood stepped forward. He was an older man with gray hair who had studied alien life forms for 30 years. "Not much. The Zarketh stay far from human space mostly. We've only heard stories from traders who deal with outer rim species." "Tell me what the stories say," Patricia ordered. "They say the Zarketh don't talk. They don't make deals. They just take. Their ships are part alive, part machine. They can heal themselves and even make more ships if they have enough materials. They eat planets, Commander. Strip them down to nothing." Patricia watched the screen as a Zarketh ship approached one of New Horizon's moons. The ship extended what looked like a giant mouth and began to bite into the moon's surface. Pieces of rock floated away into space, but most went into the ship. "They're feeding," Alan said quietly. "Do they know we're here?" Patricia asked. Lieutenant Martinez checked his screens. "I don't think so. Our stealth systems are working, they can't see us yet." Patricia thought for a long moment. The Defiant was just one ship. The smart move would be to turn around, go back to Earth, and bring a whole fleet. But by then, New Horizon would be gone, and the Zarketh would be stronger after eating a human colony. "Scan the planet," she ordered. "Look for any human life signs." The crew worked quickly. After a few minutes, Nancy looked up with surprise. "Commander, we're picking up clusters of human life signs. Thousands of them deep underground. The colony's mines go miles down. Some people must have hidden there when the attack started." A spark of hope lit in Patricia's chest. "Can we talk to them?" Nancy tried, her fingers moving fast over her control panel. "There's a lot of noise from the Zarketh ships, but yes, I'm getting something." A scratchy voice came through the speakers. "This is Governor Rick Mason of New Horizon. Is anyone there? Earth Fleet, please respond." "This is Commander Patricia Winters of the USS Defiant," Patricia replied. "We hear you, Governor. What's your situation?" "Thank God," the voice said, sounding relieved. "We have about 50,000 people in the deep mines. The Zarketh can't seem to detect us this far down. But our air and food won't last more than a week. Please tell me you brought a fleet. Patricia glanced at her crew, who all looked back at her with worried faces. No fleet, Governor. Just us. But we're going to help you. One ship? The governor's voice cracked. Against all of them? One human ship, Patricia corrected him. The most advanced we've ever built, and we have something the Zarketh don't expect. What's that? Patricia's lips formed a thin smile. They've never fought humans before. She turned to her weapons officer, Ryan Kelly. What's the status of the Helios cannon? Ryan checked his readings. Fully charged and ready, Commander. But we've never tested it in real combat. Lab tests show it should disrupt their biomechanical systems, but there's no way to know for sure until we try. And if we try, we give away our position, added Security Chief Veronica Diaz. Patricia nodded. That's why we need to make it count. We need to find their leader, their main ship. If they're like a school of fish, let's cut off the head. She stood up and addressed her entire crew. I won't lie to you. What I'm planning is dangerous. This isn't what we were sent here to do. Our orders were to observe and report back, so I'm not ordering any of you to stay. If anyone wants to take a shuttle back to Earth, I'll understand. The bridge was quiet for a long moment. Then Lieutenant Martinez spoke up. My cousin and his family moved to New Horizon last year. If they're alive down there, I'm not leaving them. One by one, other crew members nodded or voiced their agreement. Patricia felt a surge of pride. Thank you. Now let's find their command. Ship and show the Zarketh what happens when they attack humans. The Defiant moved silently through space, its advanced engines barely giving off any heat or light. The crew watched and waited as the alien fleet continued to tear apart New Horizons' moons and orbital stations. They were looking for patterns, trying to figure out which ship gave the orders. There, Alan finally said, pointing to a large ship near the center of the alien fleet. It was shaped differently from the others, with what looked like spines or antennae reaching out in all directions. See how the others never get between that ship and the rest of the fleet? I think those are communication relays. That has to be the command ship. Patricia studied it carefully. How close do we need to be for the Helios cannon to work? Too close, Ryan admitted. We'll be in range of their weapons. Patricia took a deep breath. Soon she would risk her ship and her crew on a desperate attack. But as she looked at the screen showing the thousands of people hiding below New Horizons' surface, she knew she had no choice. Prepare for battle, she ordered. We go in 1 hour. The hour passed quickly as the crew of the USS Defiant prepared for battle. Everyone moved with purpose, checking weapons, securing loose items, and making peace with what might come. Some wrote quick messages to family back on Earth, just in case. Commander Patricia Winters sat in her command chair, reviewing the attack plan one last time. Are we ready, Lieutenant Martinez? As ready as we'll ever be, Commander, Gregory answered. His hands hovered over the navigation controls. Course is set to bring us within optimal firing range of the command ship. And the Helios cannon? Patricia asked, turning to Ryan Kelly. Charged and ready, the weapons officer confirmed. I've adjusted the targeting parameters based on what we've observed about their hull structure. If we hit them right, we should disrupt their systems long enough to cause serious damage. Patricia nodded. Chief Diaz, status of our defenses? Security Chief Veronica Diaz looked up from her station. Shields at maximum. All defensive systems online. I've also prepared emergency containment protocols in case they try to board us. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Patricia said grimly. Then she addressed the entire bridge crew. This is what the Defiant was built for. We may be just one ship, but we're the best Earth has to offer. The people of New Horizon are counting on us, and we will not let them down. She pressed a button on her chair. All hands, this is Commander Winters. Battle stations. We engage the enemy in 3 minutes. The last 3 minutes of peace ticked by slowly. Patricia watched the alien fleet on the main screen. The Zarketh, ships moved in patterns that seemed both random and purposeful at the same time, like a swarm of insects. Interesting, Alan Blackwood said from the science station. Their movements suggest some kind of shared consciousness. They don't communicate like we do. They just know what the others are doing. Will that make them harder to fight? Patricia asked. Maybe, Alan admitted. But it might also be a weakness. Disrupt the connection between ships and they might not know how to act alone. 30 seconds to attack position, Gregory announced. Patricia took a deep breath. Drop stealth. Systems on my mark. All power to engines and weapons. She paused, watching the counter tick down. 3, 2, 1. Mark. The Defiant suddenly appeared on the Zarketh sensors, its stealth field vanishing as the ship diverted power to its engines. The human warship shot forward like an arrow, headed straight for the heart of the alien fleet. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Zarketh ships began to move, breaking their harvesting patterns and turning toward the lone human vessel. It was like watching a school of fish suddenly change direction. They've spotted us, Veronica reported. Enemy ships converging on our position. Stay on course, Patricia ordered. Maximum speed. The Defiant raced toward the command ship, its engines glowing bright blue as they pushed to full power. Smaller, Zarketh vessels moved to intercept, firing strange energy pulses that rippled through space. Evasive maneuvers, Patricia called out as the first volley of alien fire approached. The ship banked hard to port, avoiding most of the blasts, but one struck the aft shields. Shields holding at 94%, Veronica reported. Return fire, Patricia ordered. Secondary weapons only. Save the Helios cannon for the command ship. The Defiant's point defense systems came alive, firing precise bursts of energy at the approaching Zarketh ships. Where the beams struck, the alien vessel's biomechanical hulls blistered and burned. They don't like that, Ryan observed with grim satisfaction. Their outer layer seems vulnerable to our standard weapons. More alien ships joined the attack, forming a barrier between the Defiant and the command vessel. They fired in unison, their energy weapons creating a web of deadly light. We can't get through that, Gregory warned. There are too many of them. Patricia studied the tactical display. Then she saw it, a pattern in the enemy formation. There, she pointed. See how they cluster tighter to protect that approach vector? That must be where the command ship is most vulnerable. You want to go straight at their strongest point? Gregory asked, surprised. That's where they expect us least, Patricia replied. Chief Diaz, divert all available power to forward shields. Lieutenant Martinez, plot a course through that cluster, full speed. Gregory hesitated for just a moment, then nodded. Course plotted. This is going to be rough. All hands brace for impact, Patricia called over the ship-wide comm. Then she gripped her chair tightly. Go! The Defiant surged forward, driving straight toward the thickest concentration of enemy ships. The aliens fired continuously now, their energy beams hammering against the human vessel's shields. Shields at 70%, 65, 58, Veronica called out as each impact weakened their defenses. The ship shuddered violently. Warning lights flashed across multiple stations. Minor hull breach on Deck 7, reported Nancy Miller from communications. Emergency bulkheads engaged. Keep going, Patricia urged. The Defiant plunged deeper into the swarm of alien ships, some of them now so close that they appeared huge on the view screen. Distance to target? 8,000 meters in closing, Gregory answered. 6,000 to 4,000. They're surrounding us, Alan warned. Several Zarketh ships moved to flank the Defiant, trying to cut off its escape route. Ignore them, Patricia ordered. All that matters is the command ship. Ryan, prepare the Helios cannon. Cannon ready, Ryan confirmed. Targeting systems, locked on. I need 2,000 meters for optimal effect. You'll have it, Gregory promised, his hands dancing across the controls as he guided the ship through the maze of alien vessels. A massive impact rocked the Defiant, throwing crew members against their stations. Direct hit on our starboard side, Veronica reported. Shields down to 31%. One more like that and they're gone. 3,000 meters to target, Gregory announced. 20 seconds to firing position. The command ship grew larger on the screen. It was huge, at least 5 times the size of the Defiant, with pulsing lights running along what looked like veins or circuits on its hull. "Look at that," Alan said, pointing to a glowing section near the center of the alien vessel. "That concentration of energy. It must be their central nervous system or power core." "Ryan, adjust targeting," Patricia ordered. "Aim for that glowing section." "Target adjusted," Ryan confirmed. "Ready to fire." 2,500 meters, Gregory called out. 2,200, 2,000. "Fire," Patricia commanded. The Helios cannon discharged, a beam of concentrated energy so bright that the bridge crew had to shield their eyes. It struck the command ship precisely at the glowing section Alan had identified. For a moment, nothing happened. Then waves of energy began to ripple across the alien vessel's hull. The lights along its vanes flickered and dimmed. "Direct hit," Ryan shouted. "Their systems are destabilizing." The effect spread beyond the command ship. Nearby Zarketh vessels began to move erratically, some drifting aimlessly, others spinning in place. The shared consciousness, Alan realized. "We've disrupted it." Patricia allowed herself a small smile. "All weapons fire at will. Let's press our advantage." The Defiant's remaining weapon systems engaged, pouring fire into the confused alien ships. Several smaller vessels exploded under the barrage while others began to retreat. "It's working," Veronica said with disbelief in her voice. "They're breaking formation." But the victory was short-lived. The command ship's lights began to pulse. Again, stronger than before. A wave of energy spread outward from it, reconnecting with the scattered fleet. "They're adapting," Alan warned, "rerouting their control systems." The Zarketh ships moved with purpose once more, closing in on the Defiant from all sides. "Get us out of here," Patricia ordered. "Full reverse." The Defiant's engines flared as the ship tried to break free of the alien swarm, but it was too late. A barrage of energy beams struck the human vessel from multiple directions at once. "Shields failing," Veronica shouted as alarms blared across the bridge. "Hull breaches on decks 3 through 6. Patricia gripped her chair as the ship shook violently around her. They had struck a blow against the Zarketh, but at what cost? And how could they hope to win against an enemy that could adapt so quickly? As fire suppression systems activated and emergency crews rushed to seal the breaches, Patricia knew they needed a new plan, and fast. The battle for New Horizon had just begun. Smoke filled parts of the bridge as the USS Defiant limped away from the heart of the Zarketh fleet. Emergency lights cast a red glow over the crew, who worked quickly to repair what they could. "Damage report," Commander Patricia Winters called, out, wiping blood from a small cut on her forehead. Chief Diaz checked her screens, which flickered with damage alerts. "Shields down to 12%. Hull breaches on multiple decks, but emergency force fields are holding. Main engines operating at 60%. The Helios cannon needs at least 30 minutes to recharge." 30 minutes we don't have, Patricia muttered. She turned to Lieutenant Martinez. "Gregory, get us behind that moon. We need time to regroup." "Yes, Commander," Gregory replied, his fingers racing across the navigation controls. The Defiant changed course, heading for the smallest of New Horizon's 3 moons. "Are they following us?" Patricia asked. Alan checked the sensors. "Yes, but not all of them. Most of the fleet is staying near the command ship. They seem confused. Our attack did more damage than we thought." The ship shuddered as it pushed its damaged engines. After a tense few minutes, they reached the far side of the small moon, its bulk now between them and most of the alien fleet. "We're out of their direct line of sight," Gregory reported, "but they'll find us soon enough." Patricia nodded. "Nancy, can you get through to the colony?" Communications Officer Nancy Miller worked her station. "Yes, Commander. The connection is weak but stable." The scratchy voice of Governor Mason came through the speakers. "Commander Winters, are you still there? We saw explosions in orbit." "We're here, Governor," Patricia replied. "We struck their command ship, but they recovered faster than we expected. We need a new approach." "What can we do to help?" the governor asked. Patricia thought for a moment. "You said you're in the mining facilities. What exactly do you mine on New Horizon?" Mostly rare minerals for electronics and shipbuilding, Mason answered. The deepest mines have large deposits of thorium and quantum crystals. Patricia's eyes widened. Quantum crystals? The same kind used in fold drive cores? Yes. New Horizon. Supplies about 40% of Earth's quantum crystal needs. Patricia turned to Alan. Could we use those crystals to boost the Helios cannon? Create a bigger energy pulse? The science officer considered this. In theory, yes. Quantum crystals can amplify energy waves by shifting them partially into another dimension. But we'd need a lot of them, and a way to integrate them into our weapons systems. Governor, Patricia said, how quickly could you get some of those crystals to the surface? We have plenty in our storage bays, Mason replied. But the surface is crawling with Zar-Keth scout ships. They landed some kind of harvester units. Ryan Kelly, who had been quiet since their retreat, suddenly spoke. Commander, I have an idea. What if we don't try to beat their whole fleet? What if we go after just one ship? Patricia looked at him curiously. Explain. The Zar-Keth ships are partly organic, right? What if they're like a virus? If we could capture one of their smaller ships, study it, maybe we could create something that affects their whole system. Alan nodded slowly. It's possible. If they share a consciousness, they might also share vulnerabilities. So we need to catch one of their scout ships, Patricia said thoughtfully. Governor, do you have any electromagnetic pulse devices in your mining equipment? Something that could disable a small ship without destroying it? We use EMP charges for breaking up tough mineral deposits, Mason confirmed. They're not weapons grade, but they might work if the alien ships aren't shielded against that kind of attack. Patricia stood up. Decision made. Here's the plan. We'll create a distraction to draw the main fleet away from the planet. Meanwhile, the colonists will set a trap for one of the scout ships. If we can capture it and find a weakness, maybe we can turn their shared consciousness against them. The crew looked at her with renewed hope. It was a desperate plan, but better than waiting to be found and destroyed. What kind of distraction did you have in mind? Gregory asked. Patricia smiled grimly. The biggest one we can make. We're going to fake our own destruction. Over the next hour, the crew worked quickly to implement Patricia's plan. They ejected a damaged shuttlecraft and loaded it with explosive charges from their weapons stores. They also removed the shuttle's identification transponder and placed it in a special container that would protect it from the explosion, but still transmit a signal. If this works, Patricia explained to her officers, the Zar-Keth will think the transponder signal is our ship making a last desperate run at their fleet. When the shuttle explodes, they'll think we've been destroyed. Then we can slip down to the planet's surface using minimal power while they search for survivors in space. And if it doesn't work? Veronica asked. Then we fight until we can't fight anymore, Patricia replied simply. As they made final preparations, Nancy called out from her station. Commander, I'm picking up a transmission from the colony. They've set up the trap in Mining Zone 4 near the Western Mountains. They've spotted a scout ship harvesting minerals in that area. Perfect, Patricia said. Tell them to stand by. We'll launch our distraction in 10 minutes, then head to their position. The bridge fell silent as everyone took their positions for what might be their last battle. Patricia looked at each member of her crew, feeling a swell of pride at their courage. Whatever happens, she told them, we've already done something no one else has managed in 300 years. We've hurt them. We've shown that the Zar-Keth aren't invincible. Gregory turned from his station. Commander, the shuttle is ready for remote launch. Do it, Patricia ordered. The damaged shuttle launched from the Defiance Bay, its thrusters, pushing it out from behind the moon and toward the alien fleet. Its transponder broadcast the Defiance identification code at full strength, making it appear as if the human warship was making one final brave attack. The reaction was immediate. Zar-Keth ships began to move toward the shuttle, their weapons charging. They've taken the bait, Alan reported. At least 20 ships are moving to intercept. What about the command ship? Patricia asked, still holding position near the planet, with about half their fleet. Patricia nodded. Good enough. Start our descent to the surface. Minimum power, passive sensors only. The Defiant slipped out from behind the moon, its engines barely glowing as it used the planet's gravity to help pull it down. On the main screen, they could see the shuttle approaching the alien fleet. "Detonation in 5 seconds," Ryan announced. Everyone watched as the shuttle suddenly exploded in a brilliant flash of light and energy, far brighter than such a small craft should have been capable of producing. The explosion caught several of the closest Zarkeith ships, damaging them. "The lead ships are breaking apart," Alan reported with surprise. "The explosion was more effective than we expected." "Now's our chance," Patricia said. "Full descent power. Get us to the surface before they realize it was a trick." The Defiant dove toward New Horizon, its damaged hull glowing red as it entered the atmosphere. Below them, the western mountains came into view, and with them, their best hope for victory. A trap set by desperate colonists and one small human ship against an enemy that had never known defeat. The USS Defiant landed in a wide canyon near Mining Zone 4, its damaged hull creaking from the stress of atmospheric flight. Commander Patricia Winters led a team of 10 crew members out of the ship, all wearing light combat gear and carrying weapons. The air of New Horizon was breathable but thin, making them all take deep breaths as they stepped onto the rocky ground. "Keep the ship ready for immediate takeoff," Patricia instructed Officer Nancy Miller, who would remain on board with a skeleton crew. "If things go wrong, get back to space and warn Earth." Nancy nodded, though her face showed she didn't like the idea of leaving anyone behind. A group of colonists appeared from behind a ridge, led by a tall man with a thick gray beard and work-worn hands. He approached Patricia and offered his hand. "Governor Rick Mason," he introduced himself. "Never thought I'd be so happy to see a ship crash on my planet." Patricia shook his hand firmly. "We're not crashed yet, Governor. Just hiding. Have you spotted any more scout ships?" Mason nodded and pointed toward a distant ridge. "There's one about 2 miles east of here. It's been harvesting minerals since yesterday. Doesn't seem to care about the miners it killed to get there." Patricia felt anger rise inside her but kept her voice steady. "Show me your trap." Mason led them to a small mining outpost built into the side of the canyon. Inside, a group of colonists worked with tools and mining equipment. They had set up a large pile of ore samples in an open area, with several devices placed around it. "That's quantum crystal ore," Mason explained. "Highest grade we've found. The Zarkeith seem attracted to it. We've rigged EMP charges all around the area. When the scout ship comes to collect, we hit it with everything we've got." Patricia examined the setup. "How powerful are these charges?" A woman stepped forward, wiping her hands on her work clothes. "I'm Olivia Reed, Chief Mining Engineer. These EMPs are designed to crack open rock formations, not disable ships, but we've amplified them using smaller quantum crystals. They should create a pulse strong enough to stun their systems." Chief Science Officer Alan Blackwood scanned the devices with a handheld sensor. "Impressive work. The crystal amplification could make these twice as effective as standard EMPs." "And you're sure the scout ship will come?" Patricia asked. Mason nodded. "They follow a pattern. This one returns to this area every few hours. It's due back soon." "Then we get ready," Patricia decided. "My team will take positions on the ridge. Once the ship is disabled, we move in fast. We need to study it before the main fleet realizes what's happening." Everyone took their positions. Patricia and her team hid among the rocks overlooking the trap, while Mason and his people waited in the mining outpost, fingers hovering over the controls for the EMP devices. They didn't have to wait long. Less than an hour later, a low humming sound filled the air. A Zarkeith scout ship appeared over the ridge. It was smaller than the ones they had fought in space, about the size of a city bus, with the same partly organic, partly mechanical appearance. The ship hovered over the pile of quantum crystal ore, extending what looked like a proboscis toward the valuable minerals. "Wait for it to get fully committed," Patricia whispered into her communicator. The scout ship lowered itself closer, its harvesting appendage now deep in the pile of ore. "Now," Patricia ordered. Mason triggered the EMP charges. Blue-white energy erupted from the devices, creating a dome of crackling electricity that engulfed the alien ship. The vessel shuddered violently, its outer hull pulsing with chaotic patterns of light. Then it dropped the last few feet to the ground, landing with a heavy thud on the rocky surface. "It worked," Olivia called out in surprise. "Move in," Patricia ordered her team. Carefully, the human team approached the fallen ship with weapons raised. The alien vessel twitched occasionally like a dying insect, but seemed unable to rise or activate its weapons. "It's still alive," Alan observed, scanning it with his device. "But dormant. The EMP disrupted its neural pathways. It's like it's unconscious." "How long will it stay that way?" Patricia asked. "Hard to say," Alan admitted. "Its systems are already trying to repair themselves. Maybe an hour? Less? Then we work fast," Patricia decided. "I need to know everything about this thing, how it thinks, how it communicates, and most importantly, how to kill it." The team set up portable scanning equipment around the disabled ship. Alan and the colonial engineers began a detailed examination, taking readings and even extracting small samples from its hull. "Fascinating," Alan murmured as he studied his scanner. "It's not just mechanical parts and organic tissue. There's something else. A kind of neural network that connects everything. It's like the whole ship is one big brain." "That matches what we saw in space," Patricia noted. "They all act as one. Can we access that network? Send our own signal through it?" Alan looked thoughtful. "Maybe. The network seems to operate on quantum principles, sending signals faster than light. That's probably how the whole fleet coordinates so perfectly." "Could we disrupt that network permanently?" Patricia asked. "Not just for one ship, but for all of them?" "That's it," Olivia exclaimed, looking up from her own scans. "The quantum crystals. They don't just amplify energy, they can affect quantum signals. If we could create a strong enough pulse on the same frequency as their network, we could overload the entire system," Alan finished, excitement in his voice. "But we'd need a massive amount of power." Patricia looked back toward the Defiant. "Like a starship's engines combined with the Helios cannon?" Alan nodded slowly. "Yes, but there's a problem. To affect their entire fleet, we'd need to send the pulse through their command ship. We'd have to get close to it again, and they'd be ready for us this time," Patricia said grimly. Governor Mason, who had been listening silently, spoke up. "What if you didn't have to get close? We have transmission arrays that we use to communicate with ships in orbit. If we could connect your weapon to our array, we could target the command ship from the surface," Patricia realized. "But it would still need to be precise. One shot, directly at their command center." "I have an idea about that too," Mason said. "Our defense systems include planet-based targeting lasers, not powerful enough to damage their ships, but enough to mark a target for you." Patricia felt hope rising. They had a plan now, a real chance to defeat the Zarketh. But as she looked at the fallen scout ship, she noticed something alarming. The patterns of light along its hull were growing stronger, more organized. "It's waking up," Alan warned, confirming her fears. "And I think it's calling for help." In space above them, the Zarketh command ship suddenly changed direction, moving toward the location of the disabled scout. Other ships began to follow. "They know," Patricia realized. "We need to move fast, get everything you've learned, and head back to the Defiant. Governor, how quickly can you set up that transmission array?" 2 hours, maybe less if we rush," Mason replied. "You have 1 hour," Patricia told him, "because in 2 hours this place will be swarming with Zarketh ships." As her team packed up their equipment, Patricia took one last look at the alien scout ship. Its hull was now pulsing rhythmically, like a heartbeat growing stronger. They had hurt the Zarketh twice now. The third time, she swore, would be the end of them, but first they had to survive the coming attack. Dark clouds gathered over the western mountains of New Horizon as humans raced against time. Inside the mining complex, Governor Mason and his engineers worked to connect the colony's transmission array to the damaged USS Defiant. Commander Patricia Winters watched the sky through a gap in the roof, knowing that somewhere up there the Zarketh fleet was coming for them. "How much longer?" she asked, turning to Olivia Reed, who was elbow-deep in wiring. "Almost there," the engineer replied, connecting another set of cables. But Commander, even with the quantum crystals boosting the signal, I'm not sure it will be strong enough to reach orbit. Patricia nodded grimly. That's why we're not staying on the ground. The Defiant will carry the device up, get close enough to make sure the signal reaches their command ship. Alan Blackwood looked up from his calculations. You know what that means. To get a clean shot at their command center, we'll have to drop our shields. We won't survive the counterattack. I know, Patricia said quietly, but New Horizon will survive, and Earth will know how to fight these things. She turned to address her crew and the colonists. I need volunteers to stay on the Defiant. Everyone else should remain here in the deep mines until it's over. Every one of her crew stepped forward without hesitation. Governor Mason also stood. This is my colony, he said firmly. I'm coming too. Patricia started to object, but the look in his eyes stopped her. She understood. This was his home, his people. He deserved to be part of their defense. Very well, she agreed. We launch in 30 minutes. Let's finish these connections. As they worked, Lieutenant Gregory Martinez approached Patricia. Commander, I've been studying the scout ship's navigation data. I think I found something important. What is it? She asked. Their ships don't use normal space all the time. They fold space like we do, but differently. They create tiny jumps constantly, which is why our weapons had limited effect. They're partially in another dimension when we hit them. Patricia considered this. Can we use that somehow? Gregory nodded excitedly. Our fold drive operates on the same principle. If we modify the Helios cannon to match their frequency, we could hit them where they're vulnerable. In that in-between space. New hope flared in Patricia's chest. Make those changes. Fast. Outside, the sky grew darker as storm clouds mixed with the shadows of descending Zarketh ships. The disabled scout ship had fully reactivated and risen from the ground, but it stayed just out of weapons range, watching, waiting for reinforcements. They're here, Nancy Miller called from the communication station. Multiple ships entering, the atmosphere. We have maybe 15 minutes before they reach our position. Time to go, Patricia ordered. Everyone to the Defiant. Move. The volunteers rushed to the ship, carrying the modified transmission device and crates of quantum crystals. As they boarded, Patricia looked back at the colonists who would stay behind. Olivia Reed stood at the front, her face showing both fear and determination. If this doesn't work, Patricia told her, take your people deeper into the mines. Hold out as long as you can. It will work, Olivia insisted. It has to. Patricia nodded once, then turned and boarded her ship. Minutes later, the Defiant's engines roared to life, pushing against gravity as the damaged vessel rose into the sky. Multiple Zarketh ships converging on our position, Gregory reported from navigation. They're trying to box us in. Evasive maneuvers, Patricia ordered. Get us through their line. We need a clear shot at the command ship. The Defiant twisted and turned through the alien formation, its weapons firing continuously to clear a path. Their shields, barely recovered from the previous battle, flickered under renewed attacks. Shields at 24%, Veronica Diaz called out. We can't take much more of this. We don't need to, Patricia replied. We just need one clean shot. Ryan, status of the Helios cannon? Weapons Officer Ryan Kelly looked up from his modified controls. Ready, Commander. The quantum crystal integration is complete. The cannon is now tuned to their dimensional frequency. The Defiant broke through the lower atmosphere into space, the blackness punctuated by the lights of dozens of Zarketh ships. In the center of their formation hung the massive command vessel, its hull pulsing with angry red light. They're moving to intercept, Gregory warned, closing fast from all sides. Hold course, Patricia ordered. Governor, is the transmission device ready? Mason nodded, his hands steady on the unfamiliar controls. Ready. One pulse, directly to their command center. Target their central nervous system, Patricia instructed. The same spot we hit before. Alan studied his readings. I'm detecting increased energy in their fleet. They're preparing for something big. They've learned, Patricia realized. They're going to hit us with everything they have. She took a deep breath and opened the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is Commander Winters. What we do in the next few minutes will determine the fate of not just New Horizon, but all of humanity. The Zarketh have never been defeated. Today that changes. She nodded to Ryan. Cut power to shields. Divert everything to the Helios cannon and the transmission device. The protective energy field around the Defiant disappeared, leaving them vulnerable. Immediately, alien weapons fire began to strike their hull, tearing holes in the outer plating. Hull breaches on multiple decks, Veronica reported calmly, despite the chaos around them. Structural integrity failing. Distance to optimal firing. Range? Patricia asked, gripping her chair as the ship shuddered violently. 8,000 meters, Gregory answered. 6,000, we're almost there. Explosions rocked the bridge as more direct hits landed. A support beam crashed down, narrowly missing Nancy at her station. 4,000 meters, Gregory continued. 3,000? Everyone hang on, Patricia shouted above the noise of their dying ship. 2,000 meters, fire now. Ryan and Governor Mason activated their controls simultaneously. The Helios cannon discharged, its beam now shimmering with an otherworldly light as it phased partially into the dimension the Zarketh used. At the same time, the transmission device sent a massive pulse of quantum energy along the same path. The combined energy struck the command ship directly in its central nervous system. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the alien vessel began to convulse, waves of chaotic energy spreading across its hull and jumping to nearby ships. It's working, Alan exclaimed. The pulse is spreading through their network. All around them, Zarketh ships began to drift aimlessly, their lights flickering and dying. Some collided with each other, while others simply went dark, their connection to the hive mind severed. The Defiant, barely holding together, hung in space among the disabled alien fleet. On the bridge, despite fires burning and systems failing, the crew watched in amazement as their enemy fell silent. We did it, Patricia breathed, hardly daring to believe it. We actually did it, Gregory checked his sensors. The effect is spreading. I'm picking up similar disruptions throughout the system. Their entire fleet is shutting down. And beyond? Patricia asked. The rest of their collective? Alan studied his readings with growing excitement. The quantum signal is propagating through their network. It could affect Zarketh ships across the entire sector, maybe farther. Patricia allowed herself a smile despite the pain of her injuries and the knowledge that their ship was dying. Send a message to Earth. Tell them we found a way to beat the Zarketh. Tell them humanity just earned its place among the stars. The message was sent. Patricia looked out at the drifting alien ships that had once seemed unstoppable. For 300 years, they had dominated entire worlds. Until today. Until a human warship stood in their way. Behind them, the sun rose, over New Horizon, casting golden light on a world that would now see tomorrow,